Thinking about forming an LLC in California? Well, before you do, you need to stop. California might just be the worst state in the country for LLCs. And whether you live in California or out of state, the Golden State has rules that can cost you thousands every year, even if your LLC doesn't make a dime. I'll explain exactly why California LLCs are so expensive, how the law traps non-residents, and what you must know before you file. California is the worst state for LLCs for a few reasons. Reason number one begins with the $800 annual franchise fee. The California Franchise Tax Board's $800 annual franchise fee means that every California LLC, no matter how much or how little it earns, must pay this $800 fee each year, even if your LLC earns zero income. If that's the case, that $800 bill still arrives. Miss a payment, you'll face Franchise Tax Board penalties, interest, and even suspension of your LLC. And if your LLC makes over $250,000 a year, there's an extra gross receipts fee that scales with your income. So the more you make, the more you pay on top of that $800 base tax. Compare that to states like Wyoming or Nevada, where there's no franchise tax and minimal annual reporting. The difference adds up fast. Reason number two is that California residents must register foreign LLCs to do business in the state of California. Now here's where most people get caught off guard. You might think forming your LLC in Wyoming or Nevada saves you money, but not if you live or do business in California. That's because the Franchise Tax Board takes the position that if any LLC member lives in California or conducts business in the state on behalf of the LLC, that company is considered to be doing business in California. So even if your LLC is formed out of state, you'll still need to 1. Register the LLC with the California Secretary of State as a foreign LLC, and 2. Pay the same $800 annual franchise fee to the Franchise Tax Board. That means California residents who own out-of-state LLCs often end up paying twice as much, one set of fees in the formation state and another in California. And if your LLC isn't properly registered in California, the state can impose penalties from both the Secretary of State and the Franchise Tax Board. Reason number 3 is that California has extremely weak asset protection laws. In strong jurisdictions like Wyoming, a creditor is limited to a charging order, meaning that they can't seize your company's assets directly. But California doesn't extend this same protection, especially if you're a single-member LLC. Even worse, California courts have recognized reverse veil piercing. That means if you, the LLC member, are personally sued, a creditor can reverse pierce the LLC veil and reach your business assets. That completely defeats the purpose of forming an LLC for protection. So in California, you pay more but get less protection. Reason number 4 relates to the compliance, penalties, and bureaucracy. California's compliance requirements are some of the most burdensome in the country. You'll need to file the Articles of Organization, an initial statement of information within 90 days, and annual statements every year thereafter. And if you change ownership, management, or an address, you must amend your filing, often with more fees and longer processing times. And if you fail to properly register your LLC with the California Secretary of State, you'll face Franchise Tax Board penalties for not paying the $800 franchise fee. You'll also be subject to California Secretary of State penalties for not filing the required documents. And potentially, you could owe back taxes if the Franchise Tax Board determines that your LLC was doing business in California all along. For California residents, all these LLC costs pile up quickly. A California LLC will already cost you about twice as much as an LLC in most other states because of the $800 annual fee. And an out-of-state LLC that's registered to do business in California can cost 3 times as much. 2 Secretary of State filings plus that same $800 annual fee. So whether you form in California or elsewhere, you're still writing a large check to Sacramento. Now, I should mention here that there are times where forming an LLC in California is unavoidable. If you're a California resident, your business is physically located in California, it owns property there, or it regularly does business in the state, then yes, you'll need to comply with California law. It's much better to be compliant than face penalties for non-registration. But if you're not a California resident and want to form an LLC purely for asset protection or holding out-of-state property, you're almost always better off using a jurisdiction like Wyoming or Nevada. California is one of the least business-friendly states for LLCs. Between high taxes, aggressive enforcement, and weak protection laws, forming there often costs more than what it's worth. However, if you live in California or plan to operate in the state, you need to follow their rules carefully to avoid penalties. And if you want help structuring your LLC the right way, whether in California or another state, our team at Corporate Direct can help. If you're interested in this, you can schedule a free 15-minute consultation by clicking the link in the description below.